Professor Paul Alualia, the Vice Chancellor and President, Professor Jito Wanolelai, Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor and Vice President, Education, the University of the South Pacific, representatives from senior management and heads of school, invited guests, students and sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. Nisa Mbula Binaka, and good morning to you all. First of all, I would like to acknowledge and thank Professor Jito Wanolelai and his colleagues for inviting me this morning to officiate in this event in launching the USP Entrepreneurial Fair 2022 here at Laudala campus. I love entrepreneurship. I strongly encourage you all to participate in this fair and beyond just in participating in this fair. Most people are afraid to step out from the known zone into the unknown zone. That's the greatest fear a lot of MSMEs, and MSMEs are the micro, small, medium enterprises that are afraid. But you know, the big boys of finance today, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, the Bill Gates of this world, all started off as an entrepreneur, just like you are about to start off into. And so there is risks that are associated with stepping out by faith. One failure that I see a lot with entrepreneurs is that they try to remain informal for most of their lives because they're afraid to let go of the umbilical cord. I would strongly encourage you that as you start off as an informal company, that you progress further to the formal sector. Because in the formal sector, there are a lot of benefits in the formal sector. One of the benefits of a formal sector enterprise is the area of productivity. And productivity is a foreign word in our country. In the Pacific Islands, productivity is a foreign word. And productivity is simply your inputs being this size and your outputs being a lot more than what your inputs are. And so productivity contributes to your profitability and your sustainability going on. I admire the University of the South Pacific, and I commend Professor Jito and the team for the insight in coming up with this entrepreneurial fair. I asked Professor Jito, I said, Professor, when did USP think of these things? And he said to me, 5 years ago. And I said, you know, Professor, I am very proud of the University of the South Pacific for having the vision. In 2018, after a series of months, the Reserve Bank of Fiji conducted a survey on the employment numbers in Fiji. And their survey indicated that 62% of employment opportunities in Fiji is from the entrepreneurs. So can you see how big and how wide and the opportunity that you as an entrepreneur will have? Because the sky is the limit for you. Nothing is too hard. You only make it hard for you when you don't believe in yourself. And you know, Professor Jito, in quoting the two quotes that I like about Eleanor Roosevelt, great leaders are those who believe in themselves, in their ability to push the wall through. And so I am told that the entrepreneurial fair is an annual one for USP. Again, I commend USP. Because this fair is part of their initiative in building the capacity of the entrepreneurs. And A lot of entrepreneurs, they struggle in the area of becoming entrepreneur. You know, some of us, we are born with that skill. Elon Musk was born with that skill. I was watching it last night, and, you know, he was born with it. But if you're like me, you have to come and study. You have to come and learn the best practices that are available here. And for USP, and it will involve the region, and I love that. You know, the Pacific Island countries, all the Pacific Island countries, we are families. We are one. And so I love the attitude of USP in reaching out to the region and also to local entrepreneurs. And there are speakers, and I remarked to Professor Jito that when I looked at the list of speakers, it was like the who's who of entrepreneurship. I saw Dr. Sonia out there. I saw the Vice President of Fiji Commerce and Employees Federation, Eseta Nanda Kuitavuki. She's going to speak also. Great woman to speak. She just organized a conference for women entrepreneurs just about 2-3 weeks ago. And the theme of their conference was Women Invigorating the Nation. And so today it's youths, men and women, people with great potential. And so I am also told that the entrepreneurial fair is open to the public at USP. And the whole objective is to disseminate, is to share information, much information as possible, through its collaborative network. You know, one wise man, King Solomon, he said, as iron sharpens iron, so must we sharpen one another. When most of you were not born yet, I started work as a 17-year-old. That was 40 years ago. I started work as a 17-year-old. And in those days, the work environment was, don't teach Kameli. Because if you taught Kameli, you'll be without a job tomorrow. And so that was the fear that they had. But USP has changed all that. The University of the South Pacific, they come up with a collaborative effort. Collaboration means let's work together. Let's come together. Let's learn what are the best practices. Let's learn what are some of the minefields, some of the obstacles that we have to be mindful of. Not only is the collaborative network, but also business development skills workshop. That's excellent, man. I work for a business in the last 2 years that we do a lot of business development service work. And this is for the MSMEs, the micro, small, and medium enterprise. And so the whole objective is to establish the MSME going forward. It's a great step in the right direction, USP. And thank you again, Professor Jito. Thank you, University of the South Pacific, for such a great initiative. Boy, amazing that when you needed help most, that USP has stepped out of their comfort zone to ensure they provided that support to build your capacity to become the entrepreneur that you ought to become. It shows commitment. And so not only commitment of the University of the South Pacific in establishing this entrepreneurial platform, but it also addresses one of their key priority areas of its 4-year strategic plan of 2022 to 2024, which is creating entrepreneurial awareness for USP and the region. Boy, I love that. Students and the public at large must be taught these skills so that you can use these skills for your success that will contribute to our economy, that will provide more employment opportunities for people around. You know, Professor Jito and I, as we were sitting down there, we had a lot in common. And he said to me, you know, Kameli, the whole objective of this BDS, Business Development Services, is to tell the entrepreneurs there is an alternative route. And the alternative route is that not only do you always look for employment, you can create employment by running your own business going forward. And so I commend the University of the South Pacific. You do not know how I feel standing here today. I am so excited, that the USP has come up with this initiative, because I see here today some people who will become millionaires. Some people who, if they continue to push the barrier, may become billionaires. You don't have to be a big fish in a little pond. Now, everything is global. Everybody is thinking local, but operating global. And so I strongly encourage you, as universities and higher learning institutions, they are in the forefront of small business development. And I would like to emphasize that they provide the best resources in teaching small businesses development, which includes research facilities. Earlier on, I said about moving away from informal to formal. Another advantage of moving from informal to formal is your ability as a formal entity to now conduct research and development. So not only do you emphasize on productivity, there is now an element of research and development which the University of the South Pacific will show you. And so Professor Jito, I remember many years ago, you used to head up the research department of the university. Very strong element of research. And my son used to work under you, sir, many years ago. And he is today a very successful young man because he worked under a great mentor as Professor Jito. And so you guys now are going to be taught by great mentors in the University of the South Pacific. Not only do you do research, it also become testing of your products, testing of your services that you will now roll out. It also provides leadership, some leadership training. Some of us were very strong in our technical skills, and we need some push and some encouragement in the area of our soft skills. And so they're going to provide leadership courses in small businesses and the best mentoring. That's important. The hand-holding. As you learn, as you step out, you need some hand-holding. The University of the South Pacific will provide the mentoring services that will help you to transition from being a small or a micro to become a small, to become a medium, to become a large and a super large an entrepreneur. And so the entrepreneurial fair of 2022 enhances and solidifies these ideas and also propels the University of the South Pacific to be an entrepreneurial university for years to come. This is an area which government greatly supports. And I mentioned to Professor Jito that in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic and the lockdown, there was the concessionary loans that government put out for MSMEs. And so it amounted to approximately $36 to $50 million that they put out. And so if you were someone who was earning, your turnover was $50,000 or less, you were entitled to apply for a $7,000 loan at 0.5% interest. And for the first 24 months, you did not have to pay, but you had to pay the $7,000 back in 5 years. And so if your turnover was less than $300,000, you were entitled to apply for $14,000 loan. And for those who were 300,000 up till 1.25 million turnover in their finances, they were entitled to loan up to $21,000. And so you see, the government of Fiji is supporting the micro, small, medium enterprises. And so that is finished. That one is finished now. And so in last year's budget, the Honorable Mr. Aya Said Qayyum announced in the budget a $200 million loan scheme where the banks were to be the conduit to provide those loan schemes for people like yourselves. Because, you know, you are going to learn best practice, you're going to learn how to become the best entrepreneur in Fiji, but you needed some money to be able to take you across that place. And so, therefore, government provided $200 million, and I see that you have a person from FDB who's going to be speaking to you people also. And so FDB very recently launched a product that is very attractive, and the interest rate is 5% or less. So I'll say 5%. Don't take that or less, because I might get into trouble with FDB. But I'm told that the interest rate is 5%. Compare that with the credit card interest. When you use your credit card and you forget to pay your credit card, they impose a 19 to 22% interest straight away on your balance. So you compare the 5% against those high numbers. Government is trying their best to make it easy to help in the funding and to create opportunities for entrepreneurial by providing small loans and small grants. Just recently, government provided a tractor to the Ratu Apisayo, Apenisa Naebo in Nawaka village. And so the tractor was worth approximately $70,000. And so government gave a grant of 2/3 of that amount. And the 1/3, which the co-op had to put in, was to be funded by FDB by way of a loan. And so where previously the Nawaka people would use the digging fork and the knife and the bulmakau siviara, now they have a huge tractor that can farm and can plow the land any which way, thanks to the government of Fiji. The Fiji Commerce and Employees Federation, the organization that I work for, they have 10 councils. And of the 10 councils, there are 2 that caters for the micro, small, medium enterprise. And so the first one is the Youth Entrepreneurs Council. And so it's for those who are 40 years and under. And the second one is for the Women Entrepreneurs Business Council. And so the chairperson, who's also the vice president of FSEF, so the person who's the chairperson of the Women Entrepreneurs Business Council, is Mrs. Eseta Nandakuitavuki, who's a senior manager at Westpac. And so if you are interested, you know, there's strength in numbers. Let me emphasize that. There's strength in numbers. Government set up a Youth Entrepreneur Scheme, YES. FSEF set up a YEC Council. We work very closely together. And so the reason the government set it up is to try and get the YES to work as a cooperative. Again, there's power in numbers. And so I see that government also is going to come and speak to you people, so let me not talk about it too much. And so we have provided, our vision is to provide the employers with the information, the knowledge, and the capacity to better themselves in the area of entrepreneurship. I must, however, acknowledge again the University of the South Pacific's support in providing this wonderful platform in training our young people and people who have a passion to start their own business and access funding provided by the government and different organizations in Fiji and the region. I'm also convinced that the creation of micro, small, medium enterprises projects will not only provide a pathway to synchronize the gap that exists between the employment market and tertiary institutions, But just as important is to raise the standard of economic sustainability and the hopes of our future employees. With our small island Pacific economy and market size, coupled with our very competitive labor market, which is further compounded by our rather limited employment opportunities, our problems and our challenges are indeed varied. And in view of this, I strongly believe that entrepreneurial development is indeed a positive way to go, for undoubtedly it is the backbone of economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurs are risk takers, and I heard Professor talk about that. They are risk takers, and they are doers, not dreamers. They search for change, they respond to change, and they exploit opportunities. They bring innovation to their daily lives, and they explore niche markets. They accept change and always stand up. And when they fall, they build resilience to the work that they do and create a legacy when they are successful. I would like to urge everyone that are present here today, please speak to your friends who are not here. Okay? Not only are they missing out on a great opportunity that when they graduate from the University of the South Pacific, they graduate with knowledge that will build them to become very successful people. Okay? And so, access the many opportunities that are available starting today until Friday, that is provided and created by the University of the South Pacific in providing training in entrepreneurship this week. Please utilize the mentoring aspect. That's an important aspect, which will feature in your Wednesday's program. So tomorrow, they'll speak about mentorship. Please come. Please come. And so I will reach out to Professor Jito once this week is over. He will point me to one of his employees, and if we can expand the mentorship to also include some of the CEOs from companies in Fiji who are members of Fiji Commerce and Employees Federation, we'd be happy to put our hands up and to provide the CEOs or the managing directors or the chief financial officer or the chief human resources officer or the chief sales and marketing officer. We would like to support you in your journey. And so please utilize the mentoring aspect and all. To Professor Jito. Jito Vanolelai, Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor and Vice President of the University of the South Pacific, to all the staff, participants, students, sponsors, thank you all for coming today, for attending today. And may I wish the participants of this workshop well and success in your deliberations. I have much pleasure in launching the USP Entrepreneurial Fair 2022. Pinaka wai levu, and God bless.